hearing on administrative costs, and then we'll get right to public comment right after that, okay? And then the esports will be after that. You already did roll call, you just need to call, so, well, you know, you need to do a roll call for this one.
That's what I was saying. Okay, we're gonna call order this meeting. Lisa, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Berger.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here.
Ms. Larison.
Here.
Ms. Rushing.
Here.
Mr. Summer.
Here.
Mr. Souders.
Here. This reviews for the past year's administrative cost. Mr. Hayes, you wanna?
Yeah, there's a limitation for the increase in administrative costs per year, it's 5%. And this year we were over that, because we've got some things back in line and added some administrative costs. But I printed out the administrative costs for districts around us, so you can see, we were ranked 361 out of 385 school districts for administrative costs, so we were almost the lowest. Last year, we paid an average of $106.09 per student for administrative costs. They break it down by student, so it's district size. So we have to have a hearing to waive that limitation because of the things that we've already put into place for this year. Anybody have any questions? We're still gonna be in that lowest tier even with the,
We're gonna move up though, right?
we'll move up, but we'll still be in that bottom tier 4 of administrative costs for districts like us.
Anybody have any other thing to say? Does the public have any testimony on the proposed waiver? Okay, we need to waive adoption. Waiver adoption.
Waiver adoption.
Okay, I need a motion.
I'll make the motion that we
We did,
Adopt the waiver.
adopt the waiver for
Okay.
administrative costs.
all right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any more discussion on this? No more discussion. Can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Berger.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Ms. Larison.
Yes.
Ms. Rushing.
Yes.
Mr. Summer.
Yes.
Mr. Souders.
Yes.
Now we're back to public comment.
Yes. Okay, we're gonna open up the public comment.
We've got Ken Lawson and Christy Stevenson. I keep calling her Christy Cook. Christy Stevenson here to talk to us about the soccer proposal for NJHS. You guys want to?
Yeah, we came down last year, made a presentation, a proposal for you guys. I think you all should still have those documents. There's still a big interest in the kids. Kids really want that. I think it'd be a really nice compliment to the community, to the kids, to the school district. Region 1 has approved us playing Region 1, District 1. They have District 1 and District 2. The proposal that was laid out was we should play over there because of travel costs, not going so far. We gave you a list of all those schools, the travel distance to those. I spoke to Scott Kirkpatrick the other day, and they're really excited about hearing that we could possibly be a part of that. Another school that they could play in District 1. And then at the end of the season, it's all just locally. They do have a regional tournament. Regional tournaments like the first and second top teams from District 1 and District 2 they play. It's really laid back, what we call laid back. Last year, there was a lot of rainouts and different things, so they just said instead of having a two-day event, they just had one championship. So the top team from District 1 and the top team from District 2 end up playing in that regional championship game. They give a little ceremony, a trophy and stuff like that. It's more about skill developing the kids, teaching the things that athletics teach the kids about life and things of that nature. So,
How many teams are in District 1 again? I know you told me.
District 1 will have. Let me go and look at
I left
list.
my stuff upstairs, I think, sorry.
And while he's looking at that, the districts do a lot of self-scheduling.
And so it wouldn't be a big administrative burden on your staff, because there's, one meeting that you go to, and pretty much the scheduling gets knocked out all at one time. And so that wouldn't be a huge burden.
You guys went over this too, but Mr. Cook just asked, the seasons, because it's opposite, are they both,
Season, the practice starts the second week in February.
So it's spring.
It's a spring
Correct.
sport.
Okay.
Girls and boys play on the same day, so that's how they usually travel together. That's how all the schools do it, to cut cost, okay? And, so they play like, some schools will start at 4:30 if they don't have lights, which we would start at 4:30 here. And so the boys would play first and the girls would play second. They don't play a JV game. There's, 7 teams in District 1. We would be the 8th team in District 1. There's usually 12 games that they try to play. It starts the second week in March. It's over the first week in May. So it's about a month and a half, or about 2 months with practice and things of that nature. They do have what they call a jamboree at the 1st of March, and that's usually like March the 3rd, something like that. And it kind of kicks the season off. The guy who does that is the high school coach at McCracken County High School. He's also the assistant coach at Heath. He's the girls' middle school coach at Heath. So his name is Chris Lacey. That's it. That's the gentleman that does that every year. So we, as a junior high group, played in that last year. You know, they invited our teams to come over and play. We weren't a school team. You know, our league has been running junior high, and we've been playing more up north. And it's very difficult to be traveling those games, because we would travel sometimes an hour away. These are not really what we call travel teams. They're just teams that we kind of play more of a recreational and more of a competitive schedule as you get in that 7th and 8th grade. So this would help what we call develop kids and develop the program at the high school program. And that's why the junior high has had this, or middle school in the state of Kentucky, for so long. It's not a state sanctioned sport. It's more locally at the regional level. Yeah.
are there any other, Southern Illinois schools doing this yet? I know there were some thinking about it.
They are considering that. What we did do is we kind of joined forces with some Southern Illinois schools. We developed what we call the Sims League, and the Sims League was the Southern Illinois Middle School League, and we have a lot of those teams trying to play in that. Harrisburg and those teams knows that through the years we wanted to support them, so we started playing up there, but they always knew that we would try to make this transition to Kentucky because of the distance of traveling for our kids.
And just to remind everybody, I think Mr. Lawson, it's been over a year ago when we talked the first time, and we had all the budget cuts and constraints, and they've been very patient, I have to say, waiting for us to try to get finances in order, because we just weren't in a position to even really have that discussion. But now that things are looking a little better, let's take a look at it.
Am I hearing we would have one boys team
And
and
one
one
girls
girls team?
That's correct.
So we'd only be having a head coach and
Probably two coaches.
two coaches
probably.
per team.
And then sometimes in some of the Kentucky
Oh,
schools,
two total, okay, two total.
one coach sometimes coaches both programs, you know, but that's up to the administration, however they want to do that, yeah.
And we are responsible for transportation.
Yeah, the original proposal was for them to take this on for the most part and almost be a non-cost issue, but I think, my recommendation would be to treat it more like a team sport and cover that, so our insurance would cover it, our transportation would be covered. It would be more of a cost to us, but,
So we're looking basically 6 trips a year.
yeah, it is about half and half home away, or?
Yes, it's half and half, yes. And, you know, we're here to also help partner with you guys. For example, you know, striping fields and stuff, we could help you guys with that. You know, we're at the soccer complex doing things on a daily basis. You know, the goals that they would be off play, and they would play at the complex, we've already purchased those. Those goals are ready, set there, ready to go. You know, we've done some, what we call investment, just in case this did happen, that, you know, we would kind of partner with you guys
some jersey costs. Sure. It's not gonna be extraordinary.
How
We
many
could
kids would
continue
be
as a
on it?
board to continue to help, raise funds when that's needed.
How many kids would normally be probably on a team for each one? Was it
Well,
15, 12, 15?
there's 11
20? I don't
kids
know.
on the field that's playing. Typically, you want to roster at least, you know, for a game like that, like at least 18. But you're gonna have more than 18 boys and 18 girls playing. So what you would do is you would just try, you would skill develop all the kids. You wouldn't really want to cut the kids, you know, because they're
That's right.
7th and 8th grade, because most of the kids that's gonna be on the field are probably gonna be the kids that's already developed and/or kids that's really played competitive, that's in the 7th grade, that could really help the 8th graders on the field. But you wouldn't really wanna cut any of those kids, I don't think, because you want those number-wise coming into your high school sports. Yes.
And there's a lot of kids already involved in soccer that aren't involved in other sports. It's reaching a whole nother segment of the community.
Otherwise, wouldn't be doing anything in the spring.
I mean, there's a whole,
Spring fourth, we have it.
just track.
Track and baseball.
Track and the,
Baseball.
the
Baseball's
girls
in the fall.
volleyball. is also-
Volleyball.
Yeah.
Baseball, fall, so in the spring, at junior high, we just have the ball. Track. Okay.
There's a group of, lights. Yeah.
That would be sports. So how does this start then? Like we did in the past, did this start out like it'd be a sport, or will it be a club for the first year, like, or how that?
We all three
You've got
talked, I
that
would like,
figured out?
I'd like to start slow, and really, I wanted to run it by all of you so that we don't need a motion or anything, but if everybody's comfortable with this, we'll continue working and develop kind of an initial, season, and I think Mr. Lawson and Ms. Stevenson will help with that, and, we'll try to get like a pilot program and see how it works, see what we run into, and kind of try it out from there.
Yeah, the first meetings, what it is this is kind of switch from one person to the next person, or the school, and they kind of oversee it. There's what we call an assigner, referee assigner, which is Scott Kirkpatrick. Scott and I go way back in soccer. So he assigns all referees for every game in District 1, District 2. So that kind of stuff at the junior high wouldn't have to be handled. We pay a $50 signing fee to Scott. Scott would take care of that. We could give him all the referees in Southern Illinois. So he would call those, and he would make sure there's people at the game. The fields would be striped. The coach, you know, there's a lot of
Would
things.
be things that we would.
And I think we could work.
These things are already taken care of by this board, this body that already run. We're just kind of joining them, the school, and then they would take care of those scheduling and all those types of things. Now, you'd have to have a representative at that meeting the first time. That's usually in November, or first in December, and then they kind of schedule everything from that point on.
And give me,
Anybody have any?
You know, I think it's something that we've talked about, and I'm just, you know, appreciative that back a year, maybe it's been a year and a half ago, that, you know, we wasn't in a position to say, now's a good time, but maybe now is, to look at it.
I agree, just go ahead and let them pursue this and then move on, we'll come back.
Yeah, we'll get a program proposal together for you to make a motion
The
on.
more we can have,
I'll get that going.
more kids involved, I
Let me
think
talk to
is,
you.
I think it's good.
Thank you.
Appreciate you all heading it up.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
Sorry we were late.
It's okay.
Rob Frazier's here, esports.
Mr. Frazier. Esports.
Oh, yeah. We're not gonna go through the whole thing, we just wanna kinda show you what we've been working on. Give me 1 second, please.
yourself while you're setting that up.
I'm Chris Runyon. I'm currently the president of our little esports club we've got going.
I'm Lucas Barger, vice president of esports club.
Welcome.
What is it? Explain what e-board is.
This is working on some updates, I'll just, I don't need it for a second, but, I'm Brock Frazier, coach esports, kind of started and spearheaded it. Esports is basically athletics in an electronic state, so video gaming. And, I know probably somebody's probably thinking like, whoa, wait a minute, video games, on a, high school level of competition. Last year, we actually got a scholarship for a student, Ethan Short, I don't know if somebody heard about that. He went to Brescia University over in Owensboro to play Heroes of the Storm. He actually came in really well, and they got him competing in many other games also. I probably asked Mr. Hayes 4 or 5 years ago if this was something we could do, and we were like, what is this crazy guy doing? And I hounded on him, and finally, a few years ago, he said, okay, let's see what we can do. So I started very small select group, about 10 or 11 kids. Ethan was one of them, and that was kind of for my safety too, because I didn't know how this was going to run and what was the best thing for the students. I didn't want to get overwhelmed, and we had a pretty successful year, and it was kind of just like a club status where we just weighed everything out. We competed online with the games that already had their online competitions already laid out in their framework. And then last year we stepped it up a little bit, and we invited more and more. I kind of put some flyers out, and we ended the school year with 43 students involved in it. When I left today, we got our 60th student in esports now. So it's already surpassed. It's been growing, 20 or so percent, every year. And we pick up, probably every time I have esports, we pick up 1 or 2 students that are just interested in it. And we currently compete in a league, which I'll let Lucas talk about here in just a second. It's High School Esports League. And that's how they've been competing, like last year, if you want to say a little bit about that.
So yeah, basically, High School Esports League is the league we competed in last year. I was the captain of the team last year, and it basically connects you with other teams from around the country, basically, and you get to compete with teams of your own level, pretty much. It's not that most ideal way, but it works for us right now. So
It's the biggest league right now, not sanctioned by IHSA or anything, that high schools throughout the nation can compete in. Recently, another league called Play Versus has partnered with NFHS, which is pretty big in my standard, because now they're backed by the same group and organization that IHSA looks for a lot of our, like soccer and volleyball and all of our rules and regulations for that. Last year I went to Chicago with Ethan and Jacob Bullard. They were our president and vice president, and IHSA, one of their representatives, put a piece in the video that Illini Cloud did for ICE that was supportive of Illinois sanctioning esports for the students. And they actually have it listed right now as an immersive sport, possibility. They said that they want to get about 20% of the state, high school-wise, about 80 schools from my understanding, involved in that. And that started out with about 7 to 9, and then it jumped up to about 11. Right now there's 21, so it's kind of building. I have been talking to Marion, Mount Carmel, Sandoval, Sykeston, Taylorville, Illinois, which is central Illinois, and Chrisman. I've been helping them because they've asked me, hey, you've got an esports team. I'm like, I'll help you with everything you need to. Trying to get that to expand rather quickly, so IHSA would actually sanction this, and we would have our own leagues and regions, and they're talking about state tournaments just like any other athletic would have, your traditional athletics. Also NACE, which is the collegiate version of the esports levels that they compete with, they have grown quite considerably too, where I was talking to Wes Land, Bloomington Normal, their coach, and he said, yeah, 2 or 3 years ago they had maybe 20 colleges that really had a team that they're offering scholarships with. That jumped last year to about 55 to 60, and he anticipated it being over 100 this year, and I checked their growth charts, and they're at 102 right now. And it's grown, 102 colleges. Now that's just in NACE. I also dug a little deeper, and the Big Ten, they've got a contract with I don't know what television group, but they're about ready to launch their own league, along with 200 other colleges, which is going to increase that to almost 300 to 400 colleges, along with over 9 million scholarships, $9 million of scholarships money for the kids. So it's blowing up fast, faster than I ever anticipated the first day I ever talked to Mr. Hayes about it.
I remember when you told me there were gonna be scholarships for this, everybody was crazy. For playing video games.
What kind of sports
Yeah, I don't wanna
are
play
there?
anything else.
There, and that's another thing, that's a good question. You've got your traditional sports, like I coach girls soccer and boys soccer, and you get scholarship money in for soccer. With esports, you can play in 10 to 20 different games, and you get different scholarships for each one of those games. So you have a bigger pool there. And there's all kinds of games rated from just sporting, type like FIFA and Madden, all the way up to, you do have shooters. There's like Fortnite, I'm sure you guys have heard about that, everybody's playing that. But then you've got like MOBAs, which is more of a tactical team, strategic type game, where you're advancing on, it's kind of like almost capture the flag, but it's more like capture the other team's base. And that's what the type of game that Ethan went to Russia to play. And actually Chris plays the same game, and that's kind of his genre of game style and stuff. But yeah, there's all kinds of different games that you can play. And I just showed them High School Esports League, their winter finals that they're going to do, which will start in January. And then they have a spring one too. They have a fall one, but we like to kind of skip out on that so we can get our rosters and get practice ready. And because I want them to compete and actually, get some.
Do you travel to other places, or do you play online at your school?
It's all at the school, in a
All
safe
school.
location. Yeah. Now, I did hear that if PlayVersus or IHSA sanctions it, if you have a state tournament, yeah, we'll probably travel a little bit there. But there's no travel costs or anything like that. And a lot of these kids, and I wish I would have had my presentation, sorry. A lot of these kids don't have internet at home. They don't have the equipment they need at home. They might not, even have the means to do anything like that. And we actually also have a couple special needs students in our group this year. And what really hit me this year was the mom coming in and saying, this is something he can do. And it is. I mean, anyone can do this. If you can play a video game, you can do this. There's a young man, they call him Broly Legs. That's his little gamer tag. But he plays with his mouth. He has a 360 controller or an Xbox One controller. And I was showing this video to them earlier today. And he literally, with his cheek and his mouth, is playing a fighting game. And green, he's playing at a semi-pro level. And that opens up scholarships to them too. Because if they can compete with this, they can just as easily as these two guys standing here next to me get a scholarship with that too. So, it opens up a huge door for everyone, We were lucky enough with State Farm, they gave us some laptops and things to get us going. But we're starting to see the edge of that to where if we're wanting to keep up with the times, we're gonna need better equipment to compete, And we looked up some numbers, you guys know how much a normal traditional sport to get it started costs, and just by NACE's standards, they said it's about 30 grand, and we wouldn't even need that, to be honest with you. We'd just like some decent computers that can, compete with it. And,
You wanna tell them how much we've given you so far?
I built a couple arcade machines that Mr. Hayes actually helped us fund, and that's been the nice trickle of some money that, we've been able to buy some consoles. We've had some other teachers that have been nice enough to donate some of their own kids' consoles to the kids, and then, like I said, State Farm has given me about 15 laptops and 10 desktops. And I went over the summer and I took a U-Haul and went and got a bunch of chairs and got some other things for the district too, but, that's something we definitely took advantage of there, and hopefully we can still do that. The junior high is wanting to do this too. Mr. Felker, actually, and I'm not sure if I told you this, he's wanting to run this over the junior high level, and Ms. Hayes actually is for it if we can get the equipment to their level too. And they've got that lab that's not being used right now, and it'd be a perfect room for them to do. And almost like junior high soccer, it's kind of a feeder program into us, and we can kind of get them on that level and get them ready for college. You're laughing because you never thought this would
I
happen,
never
right?
thought we'd be having this conversation.
Is this something, do you, is it, boys, girls teams, is it individual, there's no,
Co-ed,
Co-ed, it's
no
all co-ed.
limitations, no restrictions, doesn't matter your, religion, political view, nothing.
right, so So
there's
it's
diversity.
not like, is there a varsity team or just varsity, or is it more than, how's this?
We try to do, an A and B team if there's enough interest in a certain, a game.
Right.
And we do like he captains our Heroes of the Storm team, and he's our captain of Overwatch team. So what I would do at the beginning, I would say, okay, get your rosters ready. And they would go and get their select 5 or 6 that's on that, and then maybe have one sub. And if there's more interest, it'd be their responsibility to pass that knowledge down and practice with that B team to get them up to that level so we can compete. Because they could compete at the same time. You know, they could play it the same day. You could have 3, 4 teams from the same school playing the same, same thing.
You said how many right now that interested? Or?
I have 60 signed up. And we have, I know there's more interested if we can, once we start competing, because.
And do you guys, participate in other sports other times of the year, or is this kind of what you're
What do you guys
taking up
do?
all your time now, or?
I've been banned, that's
Okay.
open ban.
We've got a pretty good number of football players that are interested in doing this as well, along with soccer players and several other
Yeah,
sports.
Everybody does.
I've got, like you said, soccer. I got baseball players in
So
there.
these games then are like after school,
Yeah.
when you be competing, so,
Typically, high school esports league, if you want to talk about that, like when you guys played and stuff.
All of our matches last year were scheduled for after school, and even on the weekends is would have a game day on Saturday and Monday last year, and they were all after school, so they wouldn't interfere with schoolwork or anything.
Does this happen in the library, or where do you have a place set up?
The back lab that I work out of with, because I do IT and stuff for the district too, I've kind of split it. We keep a lot of our computer parts and things on one side, and then State Farm gave me a couple long T-tables. I've got laptop stuff there. But then we kind of spill into the Chrome lab there too, because we've got so many kids interested, so we set up projector screens in there and projectors every day, and, so they can kind of split off in there. So we use those 2 lab rooms. Usually around 2:30, I let the ones in that are not in homeroom. And we don't have very many in homeroom because we hold them to the same standards as our athletic code, our handbook. I told them that year one. If we're gonna treat it like an athletic, we're gonna abide by the athletic rules. So, and these kids have pretty good grades. I mean, he's in so many AP classes, I don't even know how I'd wrap my head around it, but, usually we go 2:30 to about 5:30, even 6 o'clock sometimes. I just stick around and let them play and we practice. We're currently trying to stream online, because that's a big doorway to college. And I've actually talked to a few colleges already this year looking at some of these guys. So if we can get that stream presence even online, we can, and I'm not really showing them on there, I'm really spectating them and their gameplay, so they're not, we're not blasting their images or anything online. And, we want to make sure that their safety is, number one. And if we eventually get to that point where we can do things like that in a controlled environment, that'd be even great too. But this gives the colleges a chance to come and we can record those videos and they can watch them almost like a recruiting video we send for basketball or soccer, and it's on there all the time. So they can see their gameplay and then email me and say, hey, what's this student's, information. So
what are we talking about, kind of numbers wise, to get you online stream and stuff, what are we looking at?
I mean, honestly, it wouldn't take a whole lot, that I think the allocated money that NACE is saying is for like jerseys, and you're probably talking like chairs and peripherals like gaming mice and keyboards and headsets and the whole nine. I can build computers that would do what we needed to do for about 800 to 900 a piece. And you wouldn't have to do 20 or 30 computers. Like Overwatch competes with 6 people at a time. Heroes competes with about 5. So if we
On the
can
team, there's
yeah,
5 people
yeah,
on the team.
Yeah. So
You need 5 computers going at once.
I would say if we could build, 8 to 10, we'd be golden. I mean, really, because I would probably need one that would be powerful enough to stream. Right now, I'm just doing it with my personal laptop, and it takes up the CPU quite a bit, because you're
do these have to be new computers, or are these some that,
They gotta be, they gotta have the speed capability.
The big thing is, like, I have a few that we use that we had that were after we cycled out some with the secretaries.
Right.
They were those Lenovo ones with the i3s and i5s in it, and they're making it by right now, but it's not going to last very long. So, and I've even put out the graphics cards and things like that in there that we paid for out of what money we did have coming in, just so they could get going. But a gaming computer, you have to have a decent processing unit and a decent graphics card, and then rest of it's pretty standard stuff, but the graphics card is pretty expensive if you get a really good
Right.
one. They're $400 or $500.
Right.
You know, that's your chunk right there, but that's what does all it's GPU, graphics processing.
Right.
So that takes in all that, it has its own allocated RAM onto the board, and it takes stress off the motherboard, is pretty much what it does. But you have to, in order to do these graphics and things that the kids, and you would think maybe they don't need the graphics, but we were actually just having a discussion earlier today that we've had to turn down the graphics so much on these laptops that it's hard to target things in the game, so it's affecting their gameplay even. So, that's another reason.
You said decent graphic cards and what else?
Like a graphics card and a CPU.
Process.
Yeah, that's the main two pieces. We don't need anything that's flashy lights and LED, we're the only ones who are gonna see that, really. Just a tower that can run the stuff that we need and stream, get them online and get the colleges able to watch us and stuff.
Why don't we put together some numbers or something so we can just, have something to look at?
Yeah, I've got numbers already, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, there may be some grant money we could use. I'd like
I
to see.
mean, I don't know, anything like that,
Yeah, it's all new. It's new for everybody. And we're the only team in Southern Illinois that has an esports. We're the first one in the area, and as far as I know, in Kentucky, I don't know of anybody doing it yet over there. I've even talked to McCracken. I mean, we're spearheading it, and, I'd love to have a model.
That's what's good about being in Massac County. You can't
Exactly.
do anything but go north and go better. That's why we're gonna start here.
Well, and we were invited to go to Mount Vernon this Friday, and that was what I was gonna show you. We put together a nice slideshow.
Will you just email that to me? And
Yes,
I can
absolutely,
I'll
yes.
share it.
But these kids have been helping me a lot, and they're coming with me to present. I take them with me to do all this because that's what educators and everybody wants to hear from is these kids. Not me, I can talk to them red in the face. I work for the district, but these kids going up in front of people, it looks good for colleges, they get public speaking, and they get the passion, out, and they get to help build this in Southern Illinois and Central Illinois, and even, in February, we get to go to Schaumburg and go to Chicago and present for the Big Ice Conference. So, and then I was invited to go and sit on a college panel up in Springfield at IETC, and do a Q&A. And I think, as far as I know, I'm the only high school that's been invited to sit with these three college coaches, one of them being Robert Morris College. They were the first college to ever offer esports as a scholarship. So that really excites me because maybe I can get a door open with them too, and
On the general, for these kids that do this, and I'm proud of you guys. What do they major in college? What is their number one major? I mean, basically, they know computer inside and out. I mean, that's no doubt. But what is the basic major that they, if they get scholarships and they go, what do they major in?
there's usually something to do with technology. Like Ethan, I think, was interested in criminal investigation through, like cyberware and stuff like that. Chris is actually wanting to become a physics teacher. He's actually we were talking upstairs that he's wanting to try to come back to Massac whenever he graduates and get into the science department. And what was you planning on majoring in?
Music.
In music. So it's a variety, there's, and
Isn't there some professional e-game people out there too?
absolutely, they're making just as much as your NBA players and football players, if not a little more.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, and 2 years ago, esports had the second most viewed sporting event, only second to Super Bowl. They were the most viewed. It was League of Legends Worlds.
There's a technical school right over behind Walmart. It's a little gaming room over there. I eat over there at this one restaurant, but I went in there and they're playing professional games online and just wouldn't believe.
Oh, yeah. And these are
They told
regions.
me that they were making $50,000-$60,000 a year.
Absolutely, yeah, easily.
What
If you get-
size
if you get the right
scholarships
ones.
are they actually giving out?
They usually tack them with their academics because it's real easy with these kids. Ethan got a full ride. I think he ended up getting like $23,000 plus with esports. I think it was another $4 or $5 grand on top of that. The only thing I think he had to pay for was his housing, and that's kind of new to me too. I know Wesleyan told me that their academic scholarship, if you team it with the esports, their admission's a little high. It's like 53 grand or something like that. But he said their academics and that you can get 48 to 50 grand to have a scholarship for doing stuff like that. Now that is with academics too. I mean, they're not, the ones I've talked to are not given huge ones, but there is colleges involved with the Big Ten and the NACE that are giving full rides just for esports. to go to school. I mean, you don't have to do anything else with your academics, nothing, that's just extra, icing on the cake. Now, I don't know how many are yet, still very new, I'm trying to dig research, it's hard to find stuff online, cause it's all very new for the high school level to do stuff like that, so. And besides, like I said, besides us, the only ones I know of is in Chicago, and Chrisman, they just started one, because I helped them in the summer get it started. So, because I want eventually to have our own league, and I want IHSA to go, hey, okay, let's do this, and make it an actual section sport,
Thank you for coming.
No problem.
Yeah.
Chris, your dad's Marty, right? Tell Marty I said hi.
And I'll send you that copy
We,
too.
Right,
so.
be looking forward to seeing it.
Appreciate you,
No.
coming in and just, letting us know
Yeah, yeah.
everything that you all are doing.
Yeah, we hadn't had a chance to talk, so I just wanted to kind of keep you informed, and, because it's growing faster than I ever thought. So,
Okay.
yeah.
We'll talk.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, next we got up on the agenda be the public comment, and that'll be for the UFA, representative.
Thank you all for your time. I won't take very long of your time because I know you guys got a lot going on, so let's get right to it. I don't know if you remember me, I'm Jason Ashmore from the Teamsters, also mayor of the city assessor, so I just want to say thank you for your public service. It's sometimes not always respected, and so take it out on you a lot. What I'm here for is asking that everyone reconsider Sherry and her previous bus route. This is the Facebook post that she put on, which we understand Facebook is not the proper way to do that, and we've talked about this. Reason she done this though is because she had to pull her bus over because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's state law when you feel that it's gotten so out of control that you have to pull your bus over because of the dangerous distractions and could cause a wreck, which no one wants to see. So they were putting stuff on Facebook, they were threatening her, rip her throat out with the rusty fork, and you'll see in this next exhibit, the people that were threatening her, and that's why she put that out, why she did what she did. Again, we're not making up excuses of the way it should have been done, but, we've all said things out of the heat of the moment. And unfortunately, Facebook's made it easier for all of us to do this. But if you look at her post, she's really defending why she pulled over and saying that she's not gonna back down if people threaten her. That's basically what she's saying, which is not really, against the law or really against policy, but, and then there's some other things that were said to her that were posted. Some of them were taken down before they were screenshotted, but I just wanna make sure that you're aware of everything that she was being told. And once she brought this to everyone's attention, they did put a bus monitor on there for about 3 days, 2 to 3 days, and that's when the video actually started working. Unfortunately, the video was not working when this happened, unfortunately, because that would have helped. It would have, yes, I know. It would have. But when it was working, the couple days that she did have the monitor, you've seen the issues that was happening. Having a monitor is now helping out even more, but they didn't really give Sherry a chance to work with the monitor and improve the situation on her bus. It was 2 days, I believe, before she was asked by the school to be removed from that route. So we're not here to make up excuses. I just want to explain all this to you so you understand what's going on. She felt that the bus had met the situation where she had to pull over. It was too dangerous. People were all over where they weren't sitting down. They were yelling. They were arguing. It was chaos. And she was distracted and she did not want to wreck. So most importantly, she pulled over. So that's what I want to say. Pulling her from this, and some parents got mad. That happens. You guys deal with that all the time, I'm sure. How many calls you get at home when a parent gets mad? I get it all the time too, being a mayor, trust me. It doesn't matter if it's parents, citizens, it doesn't matter if you get calls. And so, that's where we're coming from right now, and I really believe that we really should give her a second chance. She's been a monitor, she's been with you for approximately 10 years now, so she's put a lot of time and effort into a job that is well underpaid, which we're working on that as a union, that's a side thing. You know, not enough people realize that what bus drivers have, monitors have to go through. It's pretty tough. And I believe if you give her a chance and show that, you know, with a monitor, let her have a route back, even on a temporary basis, let's see how it works out. And I believe she'll show you that, first of all, we'll make sure the video is always working, at least have Durham try to make sure it's always working. Give her a second chance and let her look at making right this. Like I said, only thing she was doing was sticking up for herself, saying why she did what she did, pull over, and responding to the threats that I've shown you in writing that was screenshotted on Facebook to her, and ripping someone's throat out with, and then people saying who's ready for the Rusty Ford, which was part of the ripping her throat out with the Rusty Ford. I mean, that's what she was putting, that's what she was getting. So, I mean, we're all here, and if people are acting like that on the bus, that's not only putting the driver at risk, it's also putting the other students. And we don't want nothing to happen to anybody. And so this is what she was doing. She was sticking up for herself. And this is another one that she got from some parent that says who her family is, so it makes a difference. I don't know. But it was definitely uncalled for. But, you know, so I just want to make sure everyone has a complete story, because you know how it happens for all of us in small areas. It doesn't take long for things to get twisted out of. There's also a whole stack here of people that were supporting her. If anybody says, you know, we understand you're going through a lot, and there's a lot of people, the kids were acting out of control, and you had to do what you had to do, and that was pull over. You weren't looking at it. One packet of many people talking. Like I said, the school and the company both have a duty and a responsibility to protect the driver and the students of the bus. That's what she thought she was doing, and that's what she was doing, not just thinking. And she feels that's the way she did it. Now, the Facebook post, okay, we understand, yeah, probably should have went out that way. We've all made mistakes, but if you look at the Facebook post, it's really all she's doing is saying why she did it, and saying she's not gonna back down to following the law, no matter if she's threatened with her getting her throat cut out with a rusty fork. And that's all she was saying in there. I have talked with her, and I think she come talk to you too, and she's apologized for it. It's been taken down. That's where we're at. I mean, I just think, you know, we've all made mistakes, and I believe that this is I think we can work together on this, give her a shot, you know, put her on a probation time if that, and let's try to make this the safest bus routes in the country. Because I know you all care, and I know you do a great job, and we appreciate everything you all do. And they all have nothing but good things to say.
Has another route, is that?
She has one now,
working
but
now?
Terry, would you like to explain that it actually puts you home, not where you cannot watch your
I've got 2 grandchildren that I have custody of. And they get home at 4 o'clock. Is that when you drop them? Somewhere in there. And I'm getting home at 4:45. And they're out there by themselves, because he doesn't get home till 4:30. And they got me all the way in Joppa, so I'm coming from the end of Independence Road out by Unionville, and I'm going
Where's that
all the
way?
way to Joppa.
Oh,
To drive
well, by
about-
us.
So, I mean, that's the biggest, you know, we appreciate them keeping her working, because she has to make a living, pay bills, but her leaving kids at home is just, you know, it's really struggling.
And I'm leaving at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they're getting picked up at maybe 6:45. And
How old are they?
the oldest one's
How old?
14, and the youngest one is 6.
So just right for getting in trouble, right?
Yeah.
So that, you know, as a union representative, I have no authority over, or no, I can't take you guys to court, can't arbitrate, do nothing like that. I'm just here asking that you at least consider it. And, that's what I'm here for, just asking.
She is a good driver.
She did the.
And all these other
I
shows,
drove
they all
route.
come here to support her, just an FYI.
It's not that route.
And they've all been part of it, and It has gotten better with the monitor being there now for a while, I believe. And so I believe that was probably a big help, but she didn't really get the chance to have a monitor but more than 2 days.
How many routes had monitor? How many routes?
Just the special
Have-
needs.
We don't have too many
Not very many.
regular ed routes.
Was the principal ever notified of the bad behavior on the bus?
Did you meet with the principal with all
No,
the
the
issues?
principal never talked to me.
Well,
I'm the principal of Brookport Elementary.
tell
and
us what you know.
I was never notified of these behaviors until after they got out of control. No one ever called me, no one ever told me that the students were being disruptive, unruly on the bus until all of this took place.
I think there was a breakdown in communication with the company.
Yeah,
I
because
believe
I
that.
was telling Michelle.
Because that's who they tell, and then they're supposed to tell you guys, and we know how the breakdown of communication happens. Yeah. So we apologize, that's, I've spoken with the company, and they're gonna do better at relaying the information to all of you and you, for future purposes, so we don't get in this predicament. So,
How volatile is this situation still?
last I knew, as long as there's they've had a monitor now for quite a while, and that monitor is able to do a little better. It's, I think, still a little bit, but I haven't had a chance to actually speak with that bus driver, but I was just going off what all these other members have said, that the monitor has definitely helped the situation.
The monitor has made a huge place. The
Yeah,
monitor drives
it's-
in the morning, or I meet up with them, and then the monitor drives with them in the afternoon. That route has to have a monitor. Flat, there's no
Yeah.
other way.
And I believe if,
How many
sorry, go.
students are we talking about on this bus?
40 or
At
50.
least, yeah.
How many?
40, 46. So I believe if Sherry would have been given a little more time with the monitor,
She should have started off with a monitor. Right,
Right, that-
She should have had one.
but we can't go back in time, so what we're doing is just trying to move forward here.
This is a regular route like any other, regular transport route like any other
Mhm.
Durham route.
Yes.
So how would you have known it needed a monitor straight out of the box? Like where
Because
you said you should have started with a monitor, how would anyone have known that?
Because she just started driving this area. These are all little kids. You're talking kindergarten and up. She does not know these kids, she doesn't know the parents. So not knowing all these addresses, she knows Unionville Road or Dornbush, yes.
Okay.
And that, because of that aspect, she's guessing, it's hard to figure out, if this kid gets off here. They're little, they don't speak up, they fall asleep. They don't know where, they're not paying attention where they're at. So it makes it really, really hard, especially with the elementary level.
So these are all small
Yes.
kids.
Well, they're from kindergarten, or,
To sixth grade.
yeah, to sixth grade, so,
So they're all Brookport Elementary.
Elementary.
They're not,
Yeah.
they're just Brookport Elementary students.
Well, prior to that also, you have to have a consistency of drivers. With the guidelines, whether it's Durham or whatever bus company, you have to have guidelines and they have to stay seated. They can't act up. They gotta be on the aisles. And
Mm-hmm.
when this is not being done prior, then you've got an animal house.
and I inherited it.
And she inherited it.
So this couple, however long, the first time you go for Durham or for Massac Unit 1, or?
It's the first time I drove that Brookport route. I've been driving for Joppa for years.
Okay, so
And I
you've been
drove from
driving a bus
Massac.
for years, you just never drove that particular
Right,
route?
Correct.
Okay.
And I mean, these kids were bad. The day I stopped that bus, there was somebody beating on the walls of the bus. There was another kid in the back trying to punch somebody 2 seats up. They were screaming, they were yelling. There was a little boy, he had another kid in a chokehold. My one grandson that's 6 years old one day had a busted lip. These kids were awful.
They jump
Were
over.
any of them written up?
I didn't know their names to write them up.
2 days.
Yeah, I mean, this didn't, there was,
Yeah, but I mean, that's something that I need to know.
Yeah.
Things like that are happening on my school bus. I need to know those things.
We
So
completely
I
agree.
can address them.
Yeah.
You gotta know this.
yeah, we completely agree on that.
This thing like this can't become something
And I
that
mean,
gets
the
out
one
here on,
kid that was-
I agree.
social
Yes.
media, it doesn't help anything.
Well,
Completely
when you're
agree.
dealing with little kids, you don't hear it all at once. They'll come to you later or a day.
They'll tell their parents,
Oh, they'll tell their parents.
and the
You-
parent gets on
You
Facebook.
can't see them. They're little,
Well-
these seats are so high now, you can't see what's going on. I mean, so until you're informed yourself as a
Well, you guys a
driver,
mirror
you
looking
don't
like
know.
that.
Unfortunately, that's where we went
You know
as
what?
society on Facebook. It's unreal.
People probably talk about me all the time, but I don't know it.
They do me, but they do,
I ain't
they
on
make sure they
Facebook.
tag me
You
so
know
they see
what?
it. So
Pretty good, you know, that's, and I know that's where we live in. but,
I know
you
it's sad too.
If you, if,
I'll tell you what, we're gonna
Can't
take
deal
this into
with it.
consideration, we're gonna talk to the principal again.
That's all I ask.
And
And
the bus
thank you.
company and see about communication,
Yes,
and we'll get back with you on that.
that's all I ask. I appreciate it. It really means a lot to us.
Do we have anything from MCEA at this time? All right, we need to move on now to section 5, with consent approval of the minutes.
It's okay.
Thank you all very much.
I've got an hour and a half drive home, and I gotta do the city assessor, so I
Thank
gotta
you.
go. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time tonight, and you all have a safe trip, and
All right.
have a good
Thank you.
week. Yes.
All right.
There was an amendment to one of the bills, I think, James, you get that, printed out,
Yes.
late, so make sure everybody has that. Anybody have any questions? Debbie is not here tonight because she's at the STI conference, with, Jamie and Karen, so, and Tom. That annual conference, it's just me and Lisa now, at the office. So I'll try to answer any questions if anybody has any, on the bills or the payroll. I think we sent out to an email the quarterly report that we talked about doing every quarter.
Right. Do I have any, motion for the minutes?
I move.
Make a motion, need a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion?
That is for all three, not just the next page.
I can add all three of them, the financial treasure report and the bills and payroll. Okay.
Consent agenda.
All right. No more talk? Roll call, please.
Mr. Berger,
yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Ms. Larison,
Yes.
Ms. Rushing. Yes. Mr. Summer,
Yes.
Mr. Sanders.
Yes. Superintendent report.
Okay, I'll try to make it quick. Larry, I tried to help you out this time because you can't see it all now. Here we got where the board is, so I printed these out. Maybe that'll help a little bit. There's one for Lisa down there too. So anyway, I'll try to go quick, 'cause we're late, sorry. Tonight we've got some accountability stuff I just want to briefly talk about, because that's coming out, next week. And of course, we have the AFR that you guys are gonna take a look at in a minute, and then I have the usual September expenses and enrollment updates. On the ESSA plan, what's driving this is the new goal, 2032. 90% or more third graders reading at grade level, 90% or more fifth graders meeting the expectations in math, 90% or more ninth grade students on track to graduate with their grade level, and then 90% or more of students to graduate from high school ready for college and career. So these are the new ISB goals in the ESSA plan. They're wanting to reach this by 2032, which will be long after I'm gone, but hopefully. But anyway, that's what's driving all this. So those are the long-term goals that are driving the new accountability under ESSA. And so ESSA replaced No Child Left Behind, if you guys remember. And one of the problems we had is we've had a 2 or 3 year lull here where there hasn't been really any accountability. We've just been waiting for this stuff to come down the pipe. So now the new accountability, you're gonna be hearing things about multiple measures, because it's not just like No Child Left Behind was the test score. Now it's much more than test scores, and it's not even just the score, it's growth, which is a big part of it. And then everything's at the building level. Some of it under No Child Left Behind is at the building level, but we still got credit as a district for a lot of the state stuff. And now everything's gonna be reported back to the school level, which is what's coming out pretty soon. I included a little table, which you can look at later, of the academic indicators. I think I've shown you this before, but this is what we're talking about with multiple measures. So for example, the 10% proficiency in math and ELA, that used to be all it was under No Child Left Behind. You either met or exceeded, or you didn't make it. Okay, so now that's only 10% of the equation. 50% of the equation is gonna be student growth. This year compared to last year, what happened with you. And then there's other academic indicators that are going to become part of this, like the English language learner, which we do not have, very many of right now, but that's going to grow. And eventually they're gonna add science, and I've heard fine arts as well. And then on the other multiple measures, it's gonna be student success. And one of the big deals with that is that chronic absenteeism, which is huge. That's not truancy. Truancy is if they're unexcused. Absenteeism is if they're absent for any reason. So doctor's excuses, anything. And that's gonna be 20% of the elementary score. So it goes down in the future. That's what it was, for this year.
Is there any type of, anything that we can do, like for picking up their kids earlier and stuff? I mean, is there any kind of new stipulation we can put on to cut that down?
We're gonna have to try to get the communication out there to parents. I think the overall, most of our kids are here. We just have to make sure that parents understand why it's important for them to stay there.
Right.
And the reason for that chronic absenteeism is because there's research that shows if you're chronically absent, your test scores go down, you're more likely not to graduate on time, doesn't matter why you're absent, if you're just not there. So part of this plan for improvement is if you can just, if districts can get their kids there more often, the scores are gonna go up. I mean, that's just a simple fact. So they've included that, it's 20% at first, it knocks down over the next few years down to 5 to 10%. They haven't given us the exact numbers over that, but that's a big part of it now.
And you was talking about, I'm sorry,
Go ahead, Mark.
you was talking about at one time that they'd be coming to get them in the morning for a couple hours, or also in the evening, for a doctor's appointment or something like that.
Everything's gonna count now, so if you're out for anything. Larry, did you have a question?
Yeah, just a quick question. You have the 7.5% up there under the ELA proficiency highlighted on both elementary and high school in 1920. What is the difference between fall, is there a fall or a rise between 10% and the 7.5? Explain that real quick.
Well, the part of that reason is it goes from 10% to 7.5 because if you look down at the bottom, they add in 5% for science. So they're stealing some of that proficiency and putting it in science. And then they're adjusting some of these other, they're gonna keep adjusting these things. So these are not set in stone.
Yeah, but they're adjusting them for what? Are they adjusting down or are they adjusting up?
It's not really down or up. All of these things equal 100% of your accountability. So when they judge Massac County High School, 7.5% of that in 2019 is going to be ELA. That's just a very small percent of how they rate your school. Does that make sense?
Yep.
It's gonna become a smaller percent as we move forward. And these are going to change, and I would not count on the 2019-2020 sitting in stone either. They're gonna change those again, because they're making this up as they go along. They're trying to catch up. We're always playing catch up, so. But the important part is the identification of schools, because what's coming out next week is every school in Illinois is going to be designated as one of 4 categories. Exemplary, which is only the top, something like 10%. Then you have the commendable, then you have underperforming, then you have the lowest performing 5%.
Another question this week on the news, it said the Illinois Department of Education was looking at lowering the standards for getting teachers. What is that about,
Yeah, one of the theories on why we're so short of teachers now is because they've raised the test. And right now in Illinois, supposedly the equivalency, Aaron, you might be able to help me out. I think to pass the teacher, the basic skills test is like getting a 25 on the ACT. Is that?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's something like that. They increased it so much that it's almost impossible for a lot of people to get. So they're going to drop that back down, I think, because they think that's part of the reason why we don't have any teachers in the state. Because you can't get in the program, you can't pass the test, right? So,
Okay.
but these 4 ratings are coming out. But we've already, as principals, been able to review those. We're not allowed to put them out publicly yet. But those are going to be, every school is going to be rated one of those. And only the top, like 10% or something, is going to be exemplary. So what we're really, it'd be nice, but probably what we're going to shoot for, since we're not a suburban county school, is commendable. That's what would be the shoot. Now, the big stickler here, if you look at some of this stuff on this chart that has the circles and everything, the question in the second blue box, do you have a subgroup performing at or below the level of all students in the lowest performing schools? One of the things with ESSA is they've changed that subgroup language. We've always had subgroups under No Child Left Behind, but now If any subgroup, which is poverty students, IEP students, ethnic minority students, et cetera, any subgroup that performs lower than that lowest 5% of all schools, then your whole school is underperforming. And that wasn't the case before. We had underperforming subgroups, and you were still meeting AYP under No Child Left Behind. So that's gonna be a switch. And that's going to catch a lot of schools, including us.
So that's really all they gotta do is just that lower.
That lower, so that could be what, 5% of your students, and then your whole school is gonna be.
It could be,
considered
yeah,
underperforming.
it's basically a group of 20. So if you have 20 special ed students that perform lower than the lowest 5% of Illinois schools, then you are underperforming as a school, which is pretty controversial. But on the flip side of that, if you talk to people that design the law, every student succeeds. They took it at face value. So if you have a subgroup that's not performing, not every student is succeeding. So therefore, you're an underperforming school. And it makes sense that, the reason I brought up special education, it makes sense that special education students may fall into that category of performing less than the lowest 5% because they have special ed services, they may have certain disabilities that keep them from performing that. So
Yeah.
that's going to catch a lot of schools.
Is that IEPs and everything, or just?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and they lowered the bar on that, it's 20. In No Child Left Behind, I can't remember, Aaron, I think it was 40, 45. So if you had 45 of a certain group, you had a subgroup. Now it's 20, which is a lot lower. So,
Right.
the designations though, they said they're going to change those two lowest ones. I can't remember what they said they're going to call them now because I guess they got some flack for underperforming and lowest performing. But it's exemplary, commendable, underperforming, lowest performing. These are coming out next Monday, no, the 31st, October 31st. They're coming out, they'll be on publicly on the Illinois Interactive Report Card, and then there's gonna be big press releases and things like that. So I wanted to get this out there because you're going to probably have questions if any of our schools are labeled underperforming. So they're gonna want to know what's going on.
And you think there could be some?
Yeah, I think if we very well will have some underperforming schools, and it'll be because of subgroups. It won't be because
So
of.
it'll be more of the bigger schools?
It'd probably be, yeah. It'll be,
And so this could, you know, possibly, if we're underperforming, there'll probably be several others in Illinois.
oh, yeah, we won't be alone, but, it's still something we're
What you like, that you gotta work on to.
we have to create a plan and try to correct it.
Right.
And they are
Proactive
actually,
corrective plan.
they are actually throwing money into a grant that you can write to help pay for corrective actions.
So they are
They're
give
gonna,
us some money.
they're gonna help fund this if they want it done. Well, that's,
Right.
If you do the grant, right?
Well, there's several hoops to jump through, but.
But also we have an election coming up in November and everything can change depending upon.
A whole bunch of it could change.
Because
Depends on which way it
each-
goes November.
Each governor chooses their own directors, so
Right.
it changes.
And the guy that is there now, Dr. Smith, was brought in from, Rauner brought him in, I believe, right in the beginning. When he came in, we went from ACT to SAT, we switched everything. And I'm sure they were in on this, ESSA plan for Illinois that we're following now. So, who knows, but this is what we have right now. The biggest shift from No Child Left Behind is all at the building level. We're already having to submit spending plans at the building level. Debbie's working on that. That's coming out this spring. Eventually, those spending plans per building level will be on the interactive report card. It's all about equity, so that's the primary goal of ESSA, is equity in education, equalizing it, which it works hand in hand with the evidence-based funding formula, which is also about equity and funding schools adequately. So you're gonna see a lot of that stuff coming out, more and more of it. I've included the accountability baseline information. It says in size equals 20, so under the ESSA plan, there are your subgroups. And if you have 20 or more of any of those, you have a subgroup. And if any of those little groups do not perform higher than the lowest 5% of the schools in Illinois, then you're underperforming. Does that make sense? So any group, and they've got a couple of new groups they've added with this one. We did not have students with formerly with disabilities. We didn't have that one. That's a new group. And the English learners, the second language learners is a new group. So anyway, I included the timeline. We were supposed to be able to preview the data last Monday on October 15th. That didn't happen. We finally got into some of it Thursday and Friday. and some of it changed again today. So we're still not sure if we're previewing the right data or not, but they went ahead and sent out the press release to the press today, and then, they're under embargo. They can't print anything about it until October 31st is when it becomes public knowledge. So that's when all the schools will have their designation, and all that's based on last year's data. So last year's growth, last year's proficiency, last year's chronic absenteeism. So that's what's coming out. That's kind of wanted to go through that. It's not very fun, but you're going to be seeing more and more of that. And then as we go through the year, there's more accountability measures that we have to start implementing because of ESSA. So you'll be seeing more of those spending reports and things like that. Does anybody have any questions about that? It was really fast.
I know that the state was here for pre-K last week. How did our review go?
That was actually not a review. That lady is here to assist us.
Oh, good.
So, we had it confused. But, she actually pointed out several things we need to work on. She's coming back in 2 weeks to provide training for our teachers. We're gonna have to cancel pre-K for 2 days for that training, but that's what she recommended. So that we don't have to worry about subs and pulling teachers. So there'll be 2 days pre-K students will have off for that training. But that's what she recommended. We're gonna follow her recommendations.
Do we still have enough for the classes at MES with just 40 kids total?
Actually, no, we need, a few more, but we are putting out in the newsletter last Friday, we put out an option for a full day program for one classroom at MES. And if we have that, then we can move all the ones that want to remain half day to the other classroom, and we probably will have enough. So we're working on that now. I think we'll be okay. I also met with, Ms. Parks, Jennifer. She's taken over Head Start for Angie Mesner, and we're going to try to partner in that classroom because she has one that doesn't have enough either. So we might be able to combine, and that'll help. So we're working on that one. On the financial report, the AFR, I sent that out. One of the things we always looked at before was the financial profile score. You remember last year was 3.10 for FY17 review status, which is the third from the bottom. This year's 3.55, which is recognition status, that's where we used to be. So we're back into recognition status. The negative parts of the AFR, we have similar findings to last year. I gave you a printout of those. A lot of them involve our free reduced lunch. We're hopefully correcting those this year. So we had some issues with that, and that's part of the audit findings. And then there was a couple of different policies we didn't have in place because we didn't know we had to have them in place. We have them in place now. So
We had the training done.
yeah, we had some training done with the new head cooks and Ms. Clapp. So we're hopefully
She did
correcting
pretty good.
those.
They're going pretty well with
I've had a lot, I'm sure there's some negatives, but we've had a lot of positive comments on the menus this year. We're using the Kohl's Foods menus, and there's been a lot more variety.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Some of it's maybe not always good, but when we talk to kids, they seem to like the fact that there's always something different.
My son took his lunch every day last year. He's not taking it once this year. So
We've had a lot of
it's definitely been better.
positive comments on that. We still have a long way to go, but Marlene's really been helping me out with that. So I feel like it's already getting better. But right now it's verification time for all those free reduced lunch forms, so that's usually when we mess it up. So that's
How
what we're
many
working on.
hours a week is she having to
It
work?
it
Is there
varies,
any-
yeah. A couple weeks ago, she worked a lot over, but we had a problem at junior high, and she was helping fix a computer issue, so one thing about Marlene I like is that she'll just stay there till it gets done. So
She'll be there.
we're getting,
Funding-wise,
we're
gonna
getting our
be in-
money's worth out of her
Gonna be in
thus far.
line with what we're.
Yeah, in fact, she's probably gone above and beyond for right now. Hopefully it'll start settling now. The monthly expenditures in September was up, but we knew it would be up, with all the raises that hit and everything else that came through. So it was almost at 2 million, which wasn't at the highest. We've had higher months, but we'll be keeping an eye on this because we want to make sure we keep our finances in order. That's just total expenditures. Our cash balances, well, obviously up from last year because we didn't have any money really at this time last year, but if you compare it to the year before, we're just a little above. So we're really about right where we are, and it always goes up right around in here because we get the property taxes in. Last year, they didn't come in until a little later because we had that issue with the lawsuit. So you can see the bump in October last year, whereas it's normally in September. But that's where we stand right now, and, Ms. Russing already jumped to the enrollment there. I included most of them on there, 2,067, is about what we're looking at, and that's with the pre-K numbers of 74, which, I think we're still gaining some kids there. Specific concern is still at Jefferson at 113. It got down lower than that, but we had a couple move back in. So we're staying steady at 113 at Jefferson. And we're trying to keep our alternative numbers down too. So I included those on there. And then upcoming dates I just threw on there for everybody's information. Wednesday this week, we're gonna have another short-term sub-training. We'll see, I haven't had too many people say they're interested, but we're gonna offer that up. We've already got some of those substitutes out there in our schools. There's a leadership team meeting Wednesday after school, and Friday's our first student half-day for school improvement meetings, so the students leave early, and the teachers will be meeting that afternoon. And then looking ahead to November, no school on November 12th for Veterans Day. We dismiss at 2 o'clock the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, which is early this year. Because Thanksgiving feels like it's really early. It's on the 24th, I think. But we're out that rest of that week. And then get us to hopefully get into December, things start settling down. Anybody have any questions about anything?
Okay. On number 7, unfinished business, the contract for that, but we're gonna continue that. We're gonna table that for right now till we get some final information on what's.
I do think you'll have some sort of contract soon. We're getting closer.
Okay, new business, is going under the consideration of the Massac Unit 1 communication plan.
Yeah, I had sent that around several times now. I tweaked it a little bit. Did anybody have any serious concerns about that? Or I think establishing that plan at least will hold us accountable to what we want to do. Some of it hasn't been implemented yet, but a lot of it has. So I would like to formally adopt that communication plan if you desire to.
So I need a nomination to
I'll make
accept.
a motion that we accept the communication plan.
I'll second.
We have a second. Any more discussion? Lisa, roll call, please.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Ms. Larison,
Yes.
Ms. Rushing, Mr. Summer,
Yes.
Mr. Sowers.
Yes. Next will be consideration of the new Regional Office of Education MOU for Sales School Services.
Safe School, yeah, this has come up because we've always paid them, but we paid them by giving them our ADA. So when we send a student to Safe School at the ROE, they started getting our average daily attendance, which is money from the state. That is no longer a thing. So when we send kids to Safe School now, they have to generate some kind of funds to pay for it. So they've been sending us a bill. We've already paid one, but they sent us this memorandum of understanding, which kind of outlines how we're doing this. Again, it's not exactly new. It'll just be the first time we pay them directly, because it used to just come from the state direct to them.
So now the state funds.
They're coming to us.
And then we're paying it.
So you will see checks to the Regional Office of Education, which you never saw before. But again, we don't have a lot of students there. I think it's a handful right now, but it is something that we do utilize every year. And that's generally where we send kids in Louisville expulsion, and there's not really any other options.
Okay, then make a motion for that and accept that.
Yeah.
As is, I need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second on that?
Yeah, I'll second it.
We have a second, any more discussion? Lisa, roll call, please.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Ms. Larison,
Yes.
Ms. Rushing,
Yes.
Mr. Summer,
Yes.
Mr. Sowers.
Yes. Consideration of the FY18 audit.
Yeah, everybody should have a huge book now. Again, it was not a bad audit. There are a couple things we gotta work on. There's a corrective action plan in the back. We've already implemented a lot of that. There are a couple things I've gotta follow up with Debbie, but it wasn't.
Are they gonna come and talk to us?
Yeah, I was supposed to, Debbie wanted to ask you if you wanted them to come present again. Last year they came, I think, in November. We can schedule that for the November regular meeting if you'd like. You wanna do
until
get paid.
they come.
If you don't wanna accept it now as presented, you can, it's not gonna change when they come, they just, I guess they might be able to explain something.
Something I haven't had a chance to read or anything, so.
Yeah, you certainly can. I don't know is there a time frame on the audit when we have to approve it? We just have to, I had to submit it, I already had to submit it to the ROE, cause there's an October 15th deadline for them. So it's already been submitted to the Regional Office of Education.
So it's already waiting, so it really don't make no difference.
Well, I mean, it's pretty much standard, but, if you wanna wait to approve the audit till after they speak, you can. I don't think there's anything.
I think that doesn't hurt, you know, anything. We've, in the past, they've, you know, auditors have always come and presented their findings
And
and.
this is the first year in a long time we had it back by the deadline. We usually have to do the extension.
Extension,
Yeah.
but still overall, besides some fine, it was still a
Yeah,
clean
it's,
audit.
Yeah. He'll talk about the things that they found that we have to correct.
Of these things that we've had issues.
Some of them,
Some-
yeah. There's a couple of new ones on those policies that we didn't have in place.
That's what
We'll
they
just
usually
take, we'll
get.
just go ahead and table it till the next meeting. We'll
Why
come
not?
back with
So
that.
they can,
I have one more thing, on our new business. Are we gonna pursue any facilities or anything on the football field, baseball field for you people, or not?
You mean restrooms?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we're still waiting on it. Remember Mike came, Basinger presented those health, life, safety, findings and reports. He has to finalize those and get them approved at HISB before we move forward on that. To the state board. It goes to the ROE to the state board, I think, and that's not happening.
Several parents have asked, you know, about making donations toward it, or what type of building we gotta have, you know, there are rules and regulations, and they don't have no clarity. And if we don't get them clarity, they can't plan, they can't do, you know, I mean, the baseball parents have asked even like a really nice Morton building, which is a whole lot less than, you know.
It all has to go through the architect and the ROE, but we're still waiting on the finalization of those life safety surveys, and then once we have those, we can start moving forward.
So we spend half of our new concession stand on engineering and architect fees and all that. So what we're saying is $100,000 building,
It's
$50,000
good.
to them.
I think legally it has to go through the architect and the ROE, because they sign off on the building permit.
but is there no reason that, I mean, there's a lot now, they're kind of
It's a
modular type.
full
So,
time.
you know, but they're on solid foundations, you know, I don't know, something like that is, you know, will
I had
last.
one in the campus this
Is
weekend.
as-
It was nice, air conditioned, heat,
What that?
6 stalls
The
each.
facilities, I mean, I don't know.
There are probably options, but,
There's a lot of options, I mean, we gotta look at these, this is not something that's used every day, all day long. But it still needs to be functioning and nice, and something can be,
But
you know,
eventually, you know,
winterized
health
and,
certificates and safety become an issue, and,
right.
you know, that may cost us more than even thinking about it.
You know, I mean, I agree, we need
It's dangerous
Need
in
to
that football.
upgrade them, but, you know,
Well,
I
it
don't
was,
know, we need to,
I know the football was in his report, because he said it
Need to
needed
go-
to be redone.
I think there's options we may have to,
Let's see what the board is, and
Yeah.
we'll go from there.
yeah.
It's just not done yet. I need to contact Mike and see how close we are, but I'll get some information and share it with you when I find out. See if he has a timeline on it.
I see.
We're gonna move on for the, actions taken from the closed session. There was no resignations or no retirement. We had new employment, Don Willis. Don Willis, purchase service for part-time nursing service for special education. We can do these together, or we need to do one at a time?
One at a time on those
One at
two,
a time.
yeah.
I make that motion.
We have a motion, have a
I'll
second.
second.
Have a second, any more discussion? Lisa, roll call, please.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Ms. Larison,
Yes.
Ms. Rushing,
Yes.
Mr. Summer,
Yes.
Mr. Souders.
Yes. Next one's for the MCHS girls bowling coach, against Hayes. She wants to take over that position this next year.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll say.
Do we have a second?
Hey,
Any more
Hey,
discussion?
Candy.
Candy. Lisa, roll call, please.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Ms. Larison,
Yes.
Ms. Rushing,
Yes.
Mr. Summer,
Yes.
Mr. Souders.
Yes. Okay,
We don't need a motion.
to acknowledge position transfer Amanda Clanky from Brookport Elementary Special Education aide, Mary Clayton from
Two Brookport.
MCHS Special Education. Amanda will be going, is in Brookport Elementary Special Education aide. And last one would be the athletic trainer,
Don't forget Sherry Lovercamp, too, yes. I'm sorry.
okay, Sherry Lovercamp, 2 MES Special Education aide. And that's all we have on that.
That's all I have on transfers, and I just need to go to
Update on what?
the student.
The student expulsion, the student A expulsion hearing we had.
The recommendation is to expel the student with services for the rest of this year, essentially, one academic year.
I need a motion for that.
I'll make a motion.
Need a motion, need a second?
I'll second that.
Have a second. Any more discussion? Lisa, roll call, please.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Ms. Larison,
Yes.
Ms. Rushing,
Yes.
Mr. Summer,
Yes.
Mr. Showers.
Yes.
Sorry, I changed that.
Okay. One last thing before we go. The Vanzant County High School had interviews for jobs. They used several people from the community. I think the teachers that done that should be commended because the students done excellent. They got a lot of good training and questions thrown at them. Mayor Billy McDaniel was there, a couple of firemen was there. I was there, Bobette was there. We had the Illinois National Guard representative there, and we had another lady come in. And it was a great morning, good interviews. A lot of them done great, and I'd like to see more of that.
We had, I had a couple phone calls positive about that, and I had nothing to do with it, the teachers came up with that.
So that's just like, you know, prep for job interviews?
Yeah, it was just seniors, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just a senior class.
Two of those classes or something like that.
Well, that, you know, that's good. I mean, a lot of these students don't know what a job interview, what they had to do. or what-
It was really, I was amazed at some of the answers that the young ladies and gentlemen gave.
Did they get explained to them, you know, proper attire for a
Everything.
job interview?
They got the same thing, what I received
I
in the
don't know
mail.
that.
Were you there that day?
I know it was Thursday, I was in Vanderbilt.
Okay.
It was very good.
I think Courtney Reed and somebody else did that. Mandy Greer, okay. I couldn't remember who it was. They came up with it themselves.
I gave them a
Took it
list of
on.
all the school board members, and I said, you can call all these.
They didn't contact me. They didn't contact me.
All right.
Hey, I got one more thing. Bobette's
That's-
not here. She would say something about the girls' golf team when it gets second.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
second place.
Second place.
She always comes in on the golf team, so they
And
get.
also, I wanted to mention that Larry and I did attend the Head Start open house last month, and it was a very nice
Good turnout.
turnout, and if you haven't gone to look at the old building, go
It
over
looks-
there, the gym looks fantastic. And
We'll meet the Trojans tomorrow night, 6 o'clock.
They
Junior
did,
high, come out.
It is, isn't it?
Yep.
they
Neat
did,
trophy.
they did say that, you know, the stage and everything was basically ready, you know,
I think Melissa's already planning on using it. She's
Yeah.
contacted somebody.
yeah, they're, and she's contacted somebody else about starting, you know, the process of getting some curtains that are done right. All the brackets and everything's still hanging up there, so all that cost is not, is part of it.
Kathy, was it nice?
yes, very nice.
Looks like a different
Of
building.
course, you know, I went to school there, junior high, so.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's been,
All right.
But
it's
the
been
floor never
through a
got
lot of
enough water to
changes.
really damage the gym floor.
Oh, good.
I really couldn't even tell it was damaged, but they refinished it.
Is there any more discussion?